Today on With the First Pick, we're 13 weeks into the NFL season, and we're taking an updated look at the old draft order. A lot of teams need quarterbacks, offensive linemen, and defensive backs. And as we sit here, Slim Pickens at the top of the draft, Rick. We'll talk about some scenarios worth considering if your team is just a player or two away. But because it's Tuesday, I have to start things off with everyone's favorite segment, Overreactions. But first, I'm Ryan Wilson. That's Rick Spielman. This is episode 203, Rick.
203.
Before we get going, how many days to the 2025 NFL draft?
Ryan Wilson, there are only 142 days and about 5,000 more players to do before the 2025 NFL draft.
So I don't want to reveal too much. Debo's working behind the scenes to get us places. But I've been going through the list of Shrine Bowl and Senior Bowl players. It's a lot of work. I got some work to do, Rick. But it's fun. It's fun watching guys you haven't had a chance to see in the fall. And quickly, thanks for everyone for sending in all those 5-star reviews. Maybe Debo, we can get to those before the end of the calendar year because we've gotten some names. And shout out to people who leave a review, Rick, 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and put like 4 or 5 guys there. They're getting their money's worth. So I appreciate the 5-star review, and we'll hit all those guys. By the way, and we'll talk about this Thursday. I was at Syracuse, Miami, big game Saturday. Cam Ward.
It sounded like a lot of points and a lot of passing yards that game.
Not a lot of defense. Cam looked great. Do you think Ohio State missed Kyle McCord?
Yeah, this week.
Man, deal. All right, Rick. It's time for overreactions. Premise is pretty simple. We have some topics from the NFL weekend that Rick doesn't know what they're going to be, and we get his reactions in real time because he is the general manager. All right, let's get to it. And worth noting, Rick, we have a very special guest. First time ever for our first overreactions, so we can get him in and out. He's a very busy man. Remember how we talked a few weeks ago about old Justin Tucker's struggles against the Steelers, those 2 kicks?
Yes.
Well, the struggles continue because he missed 2 more kicks and an extra point against Debo's mighty Eagles. Way to go, Debo, sweating that one out. John Harbaugh's not moving on from him. He had a conversation with him during the game, a little pep talk it looked like. But we are having none other than CBS Sports' John Breach. If anyone loves special teams more than John Breach, I've yet to meet that person, and I've given Debo authority to hire Breach as the official with the first pick special teams correspondent, a role he held down for numerous years with Pick 6. Breach, thanks for coming, and here's how I want to set this up. So overreactions, Breach, if you don't know, and we work with Breach forever if you're listening to the podcast and don't know Breach from Pick 6 or Pushing the Pile Now or CBSSports.com. So, Rick, every Tuesday we have a segment called Overreactions. Me and Debo come with some headlines for Rick, and he doesn't know what they are. And I want to get his response in real time, like he's a general manager walking into work having to deal with some nonsense. So, Rick, let me ask you this question. Would you agree that of all the players on the roster, the front office, the coaching staff understand the least about kickers?
I agree 100%. You're asking the guy that's an expert in not understanding kickers through most of my career. So, yes, I agree with you. It's the first time I agree with you on this show.
Because when you talk to scouts about kickers or punters, I don't know.
You know what happens, to be honest with you? It's the scouts will go out and evaluate, and they'll get the times and the hang times and all that, chart what they need to chart. But ultimately, when you start to get into the draft and free agency, it usually comes down to what the special teams coach think, because that's supposed to be their area of expertise, whether it's a kicker, a punter, even long snappers. We used to send our special teams coaches out during the spring to go all of these workouts and then have private workouts with these kids and come back. But it's like a golf coach, I guess would be the best way to put it. They know the swing, they know what this and that, no one in personnel, I think, is an expert in kickers, including myself, as I am doing a podcast here. Although Carlson missed a couple in this last weekend, but we went through a number of kickers, and I don't know it's like almost trying to find a damn quarterback, because it's not physical as much as it is mental, in my opinion. And so you get these sports psychologists, you get everything else trying to get them back on track. And I don't know when they get the yips, do they get out of the yips or not? But yes, Ryan Wilson, I agree with you 100% that head coaches, scouts, and general managers know absolutely nothing about kickers.
I think all 32 teams, those who haven't already, should seriously consider hiring John Breach. His dad, of course, the great Jim Breach, kicked for the Bengals for years. Should have been Super Bowl MVP had they won that game. We don't have to rehash that, Breach. But no one gets more excited talking about special teams than Breach. And I think Breach number one, Justin Tucker's a Hall of Famer, correct?
Probably. I mean, as long as he doesn't tank his legacy here. I mean, this isn't just one bad season. We're in 2 bad seasons. So
John Harbaugh said after the game that he's going to stick with them, and Rick said the same a couple of weeks ago after the Steelers game. In their losses, they've now lost 5 games. Justin Tucker's 9 of 16, 2 of 7 on 50-plus yarders. In their wins, they're 10 of 11. They're 8-5 right now. So what is your concern level? And then we had this conversation every year around this time about other kickers on Pick 6. But what is your concern level with Justin Tucker in terms of what it means for the current season for the Ravens, trying to get to the playoffs and win games? And you answer this like you're the guy having to talk to Rick in his office, explaining these things to him. And then what's plan B? Because I always say who's out there and available, and usually have a list of guys.
Right. Well, I think one thing with Tucker is that their 5 losses are by 22 points, and Justin Tucker has missed 22 points worth of kicks. And that is kind of
not great.
The big stat, because this team is probably he didn't cost them the week 1 game against the Chiefs. That was the toe game with Isaiah Likely. But you could really pin at least 3 games on Tucker where this team is 11-2 if he's not struggling. As you said, Tucker's put together a Hall of Fame resume. So he has earned a longer leash than any kicker in the NFL. And that's why John Harbaugh is going to stick with him. And the other reason is you don't really feel comfortable bringing anybody in to replace Tucker, because you're replacing a legend, which is hard enough. You go out and miss a kick in your first game, everybody's calling for Tucker back. And I think one thing to remember is Justin Tucker is hitting 100% of his kicks from 45 yards and in this year. It's just been the longer stuff where, whatever reason, he's sending everything left. And so we've heard Harbaugh and Tucker say it twice already, kind of about a month apart, that, hey, look, we know what's wrong. He just has to fix it. Well, you have to fix it. It's one thing to say that in September. Now you're getting close to playoff time where these field goals could cost you. So I think there are definitely a Younghoe Koo in Atlanta. He was the NFL's most accurate kicker a couple years ago, stole that title from Tucker. He's struggling this year, only hitting 72.4% of his kicks. Evan McPherson in Cincinnati, he's cost the Bengals a few games. He's having a down year. We watched Dustin Hopkins in Cleveland miss a bad field goal against the Broncos on Monday night. He's struggling this year. And so if you're a playoff team, the leash can't go on forever. At some point, you have to say, I just don't feel comfortable with this being the situation. And Rick, I think you were in the middle of one of these situations back in 2014 with Blair Walsh. We all remember.
Why do we have to bring up the 26
Well, I have to bring it up because
really, I've kind of got over that. I moved on in life. But everybody from CBS, including this podcast and today, keeps picking that scab open. I mean, that was the coldest game I've ever been associated with. It was 17 below without the wind chill. And Teddy Bridgewater takes us all the way down the field in that ice bowl. And I'm like, high-fiving everybody in my little ice bowl box at Gopher Stadium and walking down, hey, we're advancing. And then I hear all the oohs as I was walking down towards the field. And I'm like, what the hell just happened? It was a 26, that's a high school kick. And ended up pulling it. But, John, I appreciate that for bringing it up again, because that scab was well healed. And now I'll have to start over, and it'll take me another 10 years to get that scab.
I think it gets worse
up again.
Well,
I think John had a follow-up.
I do have a follow-up, because this is where the mindset comes into it. When you don't know what happens in a kicker's head after, many kickers don't recover from that. I mean, we saw Mike Vanderjagt miss one with the Colts against the Steelers. Wilson knows that well in 2005, which is the opposite of a scab win, because Wilson's team went on to win the Super Bowl. Vanderjagt was never the same kicker. Billy Cundiff in 2011 with the Ravens missed a close field goal inside 40 yards that would have sent the AFC Championship game to overtime against the Patriots. He was never the same kicker. Gary Anderson, a perfect season in 1998. Sorry to bring that one up, Rick. That's Vikings lore. I know you weren't there yet, but that's still a missed field goal that no one thought he was going to miss. And a lot of these kickers just don't recover from these huge misses. So, Rick, you guys ended up, you kept Blair Walsh for another season, but I'm sure you saw it, just how the crowd reacts, how the team reacts every time he misses a field goal after that, once you decide to stick with him. And eventually you guys had to pull the plug. So at what point did it become where you thought, we can't, this isn't feasible. We got to move on.
It's hard because, it's not a physical thing. To me, it's I think Blair Walsh, his rookie year, kicked outstanding from 50 and beyond. I remember the first game, it was against Jacksonville in the old Metrodome, and he kicked the game winner from plus 50, if I recall, his rookie year to get. So, hey, we got this kicking problem resolved. To me, if you don't have to talk about your specialists, then you're good. as long as they're not making news. But the only time they really make news is when they're in struggle mode, or they're missing this. So I think that we go with Dan Bailey after that. I can't remember, but Dan Bailey came in after Carlson, I believe. I don't know. I've been through 250 kickers, so it's like, gosh darn it, Tuesday. Okay, here comes the next 5 kickers. So we're going to have a kicker workout again every Tuesday. I used to hate Tuesdays because it was kicker workout day as we tried to find it. But I don't know what the answer. I wish I had the answer. I wouldn't be doing this damn podcast if I did. Mentally, how do you get over the hump when you're struggling like that? I can understand it because I've played a lot more golf since I moved down here to Florida. And some days, like I played last Thursday, not to get into, I was hitting the ball good. All of a sudden for 4 holes, I double bogeyed because I went into the shitter. I'm shiter. So
thanks for changing the pronunciation. That makes it okay.
But I was able to come out of it. So maybe Tucker can come out of it. Blair Walsh never come out of it. And it's, geez, I was watching, what was the movie, Pet Detective the other night by accident.
Ace Ventura.
Yeah.
That's one of Breach's favorite movies.
He couldn't hear the laces out or laces in. Was that the laces out, laces in movie?
Yeah.
That's it.
All right. So Breach, you're sitting in Rick's office. He needs an answer. Rick, what is your hunch for Justin Tucker? Stay the course?
I still stay the course because you're right. If they're a playoff team, they're going to get in the playoffs. And if you bring in another kicker, and who's out there on the street right now?
We got any names, Breach, or is that too far
well,
down?
I'll say the Chiefs, Harrison Butker went down. The Chiefs seem to find a solid kicker every week. They've already gone through 3 this year. They brought in Spencer Schrader, who has been solid, and then Matthew Wright. So both those guys will be available once Harrison Butker comes back. At least one of them will be available. So there are Riley Patterson. There are a couple guys out of there. None of them are big names. Yeah.
Came through.
He got a Spielman sweatshirt. So, Breach, what are you telling? You're sitting in Rick's office. What's the verdict for weeks 14 through however long you go in January with Justin Tucker?
Look, I don't know if Rick would agree with this route, but if I'm John Harbaugh, I'm sitting Justin Tucker down. They both know the situation. Nobody's shying away from this. They're willing to talk about it. But I'm just saying, one-on-one, hey, look, we got to get this fixed because this can't be the situation once the postseason starts. They have a bye week to fix it. This is like the perfect – send Justin Tucker to like Tahiti. He just needs to get everything out of his head, take the week off, not think about football, not think about missing these field goals left or right. He needs to do a total reboot. You know, they tell you to turn your phone off and turn it back on to start over. That's what Justin Tucker needs in his kicking life right now. But if I'm Harbaugh, man, I'm not sure. I say maybe 2 or 3 games, and I say, look, Justin, if you're missing 1 or 2 field goals inside 50 in these games, then we got to maybe make a change. And maybe that means putting Justin Tucker on injured reserve. You're not going to bench Justin Tucker. We saw the Jets do that with Greg Zuerlein when he got the yips earlier this year, where Zuerlein may or may not have had an injury, but it was save face, put him on IR, bring in a new kicker. So Tucker's got a long leash, but you can't keep missing field goals. And if we see him miss 1 field goal game for the next 3 weeks, you got to think about doing something.
Okay, you're in the last game of the season. You bring in Bobby Bag of Donuts as your kicker. We're 45 yards out. We need the game winner. That gives us the bye week, and let's say the number 1
the AFC North. It gives you the AFC North.
Yeah, or to win the AFC North, let's say. Are you like, God, Bobby Bag of Donuts? And I know Justin Tucker and his history, and can Bobby Bag of Donuts handle that pressure? Or I know Justin Tucker has. I remember numerous times we went and played Baltimore a couple of times, and it was like one was in overtime, and they were he was getting ready to kick a 60-yard field goal. And I was like, oh shit, we lost. It's Justin Tucker.
He did it against the Lions 2 years ago. Breach, was it? He hit the
66 yards.
Yeah. So it's just, I don't know what. I just think you just try to stick with it. Maybe maybe send him to Tahiti and let him get away a little bit, and maybe comes back, because it's not physical. I still think he has more than enough leg strength. It's how do you get over this mental hurdle? It's how do you get over the yips? And yeah, I'm sure, I don't know if he has a psychological coach that he talks to on his own, or if the team provided him one. But I'm just, if it ends up costing you because you got a potential future Hall of Fame kicker, that would be a tough pill to swallow. I mean, I cringed every time Carlson keeps going on, except last week when we cut him. And then next thing you know, he's the most accurate kicker in the world once he left the Vikings. But we pulled the plug too quick on him, because it was that Green Bay game, the second week of the season. And I think we end up tying that game. He had an opportunity to win it not once, but twice, I think 3 times that game. And so the heat was on, but he didn't have the same pedigree that Tucker has. So,
right. But
that's a lesson too, is if you pull the plug too early. And let's say, what if you release Tucker? Now you're saying not, but let's say they pull the plug and release Tucker, and he signs with someone, and that team comes in and he beats Baltimore, then how bad does that look? That's kind of like looking at Saquon Barkley right now in Philadelphia.
Rick has talked to me out of doing anything with Justin Tucker. Yeah, I mean, look, you have to ride the bus out to the end of the season. That's what Rick's saying, and that's really, I guess, what it is. Because if you're John Harbaugh, you're not going to trust, and this, I think, is Rick's ultimate point, you're not going to trust any other kicker you bring in. So
Bobby Bag of Donuts. He was really good in high school. Square toe. He actually tied up his toe with a shoestring.
Go Tom Dempsey.
Before we let you go, Breach, because we kept you a little extra long here, thank you for that. That'll be reflected in your paycheck. Quickly, how weird is it for someone to have a career like Justin Tucker, 8-9 years in, and then you suddenly get the yips? You get knob blocked, as Rick likes to call it.
Look, I'll say this. It's not that weird. If you kick long enough, it's gonna happen. Every kicker goes through stages where they miss kicks, and it's just whether you stick with them or not. Chris Boswell, Harrison Butker, I ranked the kickers before the season. Those were 2 of my top 3 kickers, along with Brandon Aubrey. Harrison Butker came off an ankle injury in 2022. He was horrible. And Andy Reid got asked, hey, are you going to get rid of Butker? And he said, no, this guy's made way too many big kicks for me. We're going to stick with him. And he's going to get through this. And he has. And now he's the most accurate kicker in NFL history as of Sunday, because he passed Eddie Pinheiro and Justin Tucker while sitting on injured reserve. Chris Boswell,
another kicker that had some struggles in Carolina.
It's unbelievable. And Wilson, Chris Boswell, he went through an ugly string, I think, also in 2022. And Steelers fans were calling for his head. You got to get rid of him. He's missing all these kicks. Boswell's one of the best kickers in the NFL right now. So I'm sure that Mike Tomlin, who has made many brilliant decisions, that is one of them, is sticking with Chris Boswell. So I think it's just a matter of, it's going to happen. You have to wade the storm. And usually if it's a good kicker, they fix things eventually. And I think that's what Harbaugh's expecting with Justin Tucker.
By the way, no one who ever got the yips, Rick? Jim Breach.
Not in pressure situations. Not in overtime, Wilson.
That's right, baby.
And one fun fact before I go, guys. You guys brought me on the perfect week. There were 24 missed field goals in week 13. That was the most in a week in the NFL since week 9 of 2001. So
holy Moses,
3 years since we saw this many missed field goals in a single week.
So it's an epidemic. It's just not one guy. It's an epidemic.
It's an epidemic.
Exactly.
All right, Breach. Love it. I was going to make a everyone get vaccinated joke so you don't suffer the epidemic of missed kicks, but I don't know if that's the time for that. I appreciate you coming on. It's good seeing you. I hope you learned something, Rick.
I did. I learned so much. Don't sign Bobby Bag of Donuts.
I'm going to get a Bobby Bag of Donuts jersey.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get some more of a reaction. See you later, Breach.
CBS Sports HQ, giving you college football coverage unlike anyone else.
We're talking Big Ten.
Pre- and post-game coverage.
Are you encouraged with the way that this team responded?
Along with breaking news.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
Highlights and expert analysis.
That streak could be in jeopardy here.
Sure. What was your main takeaway from this game? How impressive was his domination?
That really changed the football game.
Let's go ahead and have some more fun.
Another wild ending.
The chaos continues.
Turn to CBS Sports HQ.
All right, Rick, that was fun.
Yeah, hilarious.
Yeah, breaching up. I mean, again, find someone who loves you.
Does
like
anyone know more kicker? It's him. To be honest with you, I didn't appreciate the Blair Walsh reference again, but it's maddening because in the beginning of the season, how many of these is like 50-yard kicks were like extra points,
like layups? That's right.
Yeah. Then all of a sudden, whatever's going on or whatever these guys are drinking, all of a sudden, whether it's weather change or whatever it is, but something's happening.
I think we've told you this before, but the good news about Blair Walsh is that his dad was EK's dentist growing up. So there's that.
Yeah, we got that going for us.
Yeah. So you got great teeth out of it. So when you smile, have to smile through the press conference.
One goalpost here is a little to the left.
All right, let's get to some other overreactions. And man, there's a lot to choose from today. And Debo usually winnows down the list because I have a lot of things on here, but I think these are some good ones. All right, it's time to have a difficult conversation. And there's a lot of moving parts here and a lot of fingers to be pointed as to how we got in the situation. But here's what I wrote down in Debo greenlit. Should the Falcons trade Kirk Cousins this offseason?
Oh, boy, was that bad this weekend.
Through 4 interceptions, it didn't look great. He's been okay this season at times, but he has not looked like his pre-Achilles injury self. And then you go out and draft 8th overall Michael Penix Jr. just sitting in the wings. So at some point, you got to, pee or get off the pot, as my dad used to say. So what are we doing? Are you entertaining trade offers for Kirk Cousins this offseason?
Yeah, for sure, because you have your guy, and I don't know, but if he continues to turn the ball over like he has the last 3 weeks, and he just doesn't look the same, to be honest with you. He looks like a little bit of a shell of himself. His balls are floating. He's making poor decisions, throwing into coverage. He makes still some Kirk Cousins type throws too, but he looks last 3 weeks at least. Now, in the beginning of the season when he was rolling and had all those wins in the last, come from behind or, fourth quarter and, winning games on the last drive, he was rolling pretty good, but something happened since the bye and he doesn't look the same. And I don't know if it comes to a point where you've got a lot of money tied up in him, and hopefully, just like these kickers, he can pull himself out of whatever's going on with him. But if it gets to the point where you're in the last 3 weeks of the season and it's costing you potentially a playoff spot, right now they had the lead. They beat Tampa twice and had the lead. And the NFC South was their division. All of a sudden, where they've lost 3 in a row, and the quarterback is struggling. Does Penix come in and bring them a spark? And I don't know, but they're going to have to come to the what's the old saying? Are you going to cross the Rubicon or not? When you,
I think you say they have a come to Jesus moment.
Yes, so they're going to have to make a tough decision if it continues.
Lost at New Orleans, at Denver, and at home to the Chargers last week. At Minnesota, at Vegas for the next 2 games. They have a bye. No, they've already had their bye. Sorry. So, Yowzers. Tied, as you mentioned, with Tampa Bay at 6-6, but they've beaten them. So they have the slight edge there. But this feels, I don't want to say inevitable because you drafted Michael Penix Jr., but unless Kirk Cousins was just balling out, these were going to be questions that he was going to have in the back of his mind. And here we are after a 4 interception performance.
Yes. No. Yeah. And the last one where he just floats the ball into the end zone with the opportunity to win the game and you make that type of throw, I didn't understand it. So there's something going on. I don't know what it is, but and if they have Minnesota this week in Minnesota, that is going to be tough sledding with Brian Flores' defense.
Yeah, Brian Flores probably is not going to take his foot off the gas pedal, if I had to guess.
I would imagine they're, I think, the second highest rated team blitzing besides Denver. They will pass Denver in the most blitzes because if they have 65 snaps, 64 maybe blitz packages because he can't move in the pocket.
And you would know better than me. I don't remember if Kirk talked about this, but I got the sense that they were happy in Minnesota and were happy to stay there. So if he has to move again with the family, I don't know where his family's based. Maybe they stay in one location. He just stays in Atlanta for now. But my point is, if he has to move again, he may not be crazy about that. The good news is there'll be plenty of teams that need quarterbacks. The situation may not be ideal, but that's something else to keep in mind.
Yeah, I mean, but if he performs like he has and continues to perform like that down the stretch, who's going to trade for him?
Yeah, but we talked about the quarterback in the draft class. We'll get to the draft board in a little bit. It ain't last year's class. So you got him, you got Justin Fields, you got Sam Darnold maybe, and that's Andy Dalton, Jameis Winston. So that he's
Daniel Jones resurrection.
Daniel Jones, if the Vikings don't re-up him, which he could be Sam Darnold 2.0. So yeah. So all right, we'll see. Something to put a pin in. We'll revisit that, but I can't believe we're having this conversation. Again, I don't understand why you signed Kirk Cousins in the draft, Michael Penix Jr., but it looks to be an insurance policy right now. Here's the next overreaction that I jotted down hastily in the middle of this game because it just happens every single week and it drives me crazy as a Steelers fan. I don't know how closely you saw that game, but George Pickens got a taunting penalty for dropping the ball on Jermaine Pratt after a catch in the second quarter, I believe. And it's one of those penalties that if you get another one, they kick you out. So, of course, he catches a 30-something yarder early in the first drive of the third quarter, I believe. And then he does something that appeared to be a simulation of a gun sign to all the Bengals fans in the back of the end zone. And I thought, all right, well, this guy's getting kicked out. It was a different taunting rule. It was just a personal foul penalty. But again, when he scored the first touchdown, he punted the ball into the crowd. I was sort of surprised that wasn't flagged. Maybe they changed it. My point, though, is he worth the trouble? He'll win you 3 games a year, but he'll cost you 1 loss. And it could be a loss in January just because he's being a knucklehead. Special talent, unbelievably talented. He wins every single contested catch down the field. But Broderick Jones, his teammate at Georgia, had to talk to him several times during the game. Cam Hayward had to talk to him. We saw Mike Tomlin talk to him. At what point is enough enough?
Yeah, I just read an article this morning in The Athletic on Mike.
Great article, right?
Yeah, on leadership and all the why Mike Tomlin is who he is and the relationship he has with players. But there comes a point where what do they say? Is the juice worth the squeeze? I guess.
Good one. I like that one.
Where if he doesn't get it, it's not a talent issue because he can be one of the most top 5 receivers in the league with his talent. There were some issues why he slipped in the second round coming out of Georgia. I know he had some durability, but it was some maturity issues. Yep. And those continue to show up. And if he doesn't figure it out, it's going to be, and it starts to become a distraction in the locker room. I mean, look at what Buffalo did last year with Stephon Diggs. And we traded Diggs, to Buffalo. And I don't know, like I said, the behind the scenes stuff with Pickens, but just from the outside looking in, it's all a maturity issue. And if he can't get that under control, especially with the culture in that locker room and the leaders in that locker room and the type of head coach, if they can't get it out of him, who do you think can get it out of him? I mean, I'm going to be sitting there with my head coach, and I know what Steelers are about. I know the culture they have. I know what Mike Tomlin is. I worked with him, in Minnesota, what he stands for. If that culture and that coach can't get the immaturity out of him, who can? And you're really taking a significant risk. Is he talented? Talented as hell. But it's almost like I said, is the juice worth the squeeze at the end where it becomes a distraction? And it's starting to become a distraction. And if that cost him a playoff game, and you as a avid Pittsburgh fan, I mean, you'd want him run out of town, wouldn't you?
I thought he was going to get kicked out after the second personal foul, and they were going to lose that game without him. I don't know if he was targeted for the rest of the game, but he creates issues on the already terrible Bengals defense. And it's just stuff that you have to be able to control. And you talked about, and everyone should go read this article in The Athletic about Mike Tomlin and his leadership. They talked to 16 players, current and past. And Willie Colon, who played offensive line for a long time there. And I actually wrote down one of his quotes because I wanted to mention it here in relation to this George Pickens situation. And Colon talked about how he was feisty. He was getting into fights at training camp, getting into fights on the field. And he said, one thing that Tomlin told me that really made me mature on the spot after he got into a fight on the field, he said he'd thrown a punch or something stupid. And he said, Tomlin told me, I love your heart, but you're going to have to figure out if you're helping us or if you're hurting us. And George Pickens is hurting this team with the stupid stuff. He's helping them. He's helping them more than he's hurting, but the timing of the hurt could be something that bites them in the butt. So
the only way you get to these players sometime, in my opinion, and you may disagree, is make them inactive.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you can talk to them, you can find them, but as soon as you take away, because these guys love to play, and I think Pickens loves to play the game, but if you take away playtime, maybe that's the way to send a message to try to get through his thick-headedness.
Yeah. And I tell you, man, like when he's locked in, he can block. He can block his ass off. It's just a matter of getting him locked in.
Nothing to do with his ability on the field.
Right. All right. So, are you entertaining trade offers this offseason for him, like a second-round pick or something?
I don't know. It's
okay.
I think that's too early to determine. And, yeah, maybe someone does trade for him, you get something you like, and then draft another young player, another young receiver.
The Steelers, more than any other team that I can think of, get rid of wide receivers a year too early as opposed to holding on. They usually do a pretty good job of that. Moved on from Antonio Brown. One name that comes to mind is Martavis Bryant, who I think they ended up trading to the Raiders for a third-round pick when John Gruden was there. But I remember explicitly his rookie season or his second year, 2014, 2015. Martavis Bryant was another animal like George Pickens. Drafted day 3 because of maturity issues. And Todd Haley was the OC. And I remember him telling him to his face after some fantastic play, I think it was against the Cardinals. He said, the only person that can stop Martavis Bryant is Martavis Bryant.
Right.
And Martavis Bryant ended up stumbling because of some of the things he did. But just something to keep in mind. Don't want to see
history. You know how much money this kid is costing himself on something that should be in his control? And if he does have, and I don't know, I'm not accusing or saying anything, but if there are some mental health issues there, there's enough resources to help him get through that if he's willing to, because it seems like it should be something that, outside, it's just maturity. We'll mature. But sometimes there's some things that are really deep that become mental health issues. And that's, if you can provide the resources or he's willing to try to figure it out, because he should be paid a top 5 receiver with his talent when his contract
at least $25 million a year, probably north of that.
Yeah. But are you going to pay that to his knuckleheadness and what he's showing now? I mean, I don't know if that's worth it. And he is, God, I can't imagine how much money he cost himself because of these the immaturity issues that he's showing on the field. And I don't even know what's going on off the field.
Yeah. And look, what we see is just immaturity. It's not like he's being a jerk or he's punching people or he's, playing dirty. He's just doing things that if after the whistle, just go back to the huddle, those sort of things.
Act like you've been there. Act like you've done it before.
Act like you've been there. Like when Rick stripes a 300-yard drive, just pretend like you meant to do that. Go back to the cart, go to your ball.
I need to call Breach after this to get my drive straightened out.
I'm telling you, man, a team should hire him just to have an idea of what's going on in the special teams room. All right. And by the way, just so we're clear, like mental health could be anxiety. It doesn't have to be anything severe. It could be something, that you can talk to someone about. It doesn't have to be where you have to go take medication or whatever, just so we're clear on that. All right, George, get it together. We need you in Pittsburgh. Next up. Well. Turns out Bryce Young doesn't suck, Rick. What's his future going to be in Carolina? Because my man has been dealing for 3 weeks now. He looks like I don't know what happened. Maybe the benching, to your point about making someone inactive, maybe that was the best thing for him to clear his mind. He's doing a better job of staying in the pocket. He's throwing with more anticipation than anyone, probably not named Tua Tagovailoa. And he's playing with confidence. What are you doing with him?
Yeah, and to go down the field again and make that throw at the end of the game. And then in overtime, it was behind, but Adam Thielen, the one-hand catch that he made was an unbelievable play. So it seems like Dave Canales finally figured out this kid, and I'm staying with him. I invested the number 1 overall pick with him, and he continues to ascend. Maybe he's got the right people around him now. But it seems like whatever was inhibiting him from being a good quarterback in the NFL, it seems like now that is starting to shed, and he's starting to see the light, if I can say it that way. and understanding the speed of the game, understanding what he can and can't do. I think Dave Canales is doing a great job putting him in situations to highlight what his strengths are. A lot of the throws that you're seeing him make now are similar to what he's shown when he was at Alabama, not doing things that he can't do. And it seemed like last year they were trying to have him do too much and have him do things he's not good at. So highlight what he can do. And I give a lot of credit to Dave Canales, and whether that benching got him a chance to regroup mentally, and then he got his second chance, and he's taken full advantage of it. So kudos to him, because he's a great kid, really cares, is a pro from top to bottom. And I'm excited just because I root for the kid, because of not only as a football player, but I root for the kid because he's such a great kid.
Yeah, and it just goes to show, I mean, we're in the business of overreacting to most things, because after week 2, I think it's when he got benched, we all just figured he was done in Carolina because he was 17, 18 games into his professional career and to the team that drafted him first overall. And he sat there and he took it, and he seemed to improve. So more power to him. It's been fun
There's
to watch.
Another one at Indy that's getting better too after his benching.
And maybe maybe these kids are different, Rick. Maybe they take benching better than old timers would have taken the benching, or me in particular. I got benched a lot. I didn't respond well before or after the benching. So
maybe you should have never been out there to get benched to begin with. You ever think of that?
You want to hear a funny story? I played baseball in college, and I was a all field no hit middle infielder. And one of my buddies told me, because you have to tell me this, I was up there at the plate, inevitably about to strike out, and he heard the manager say, "We got to find a way to get Wilson out of this game." And I was like, "Yeah, that checks out." So Bryce Young, not Ryan Wilson. Good job, Bryce. It's good to see. They got Jonathan Brooks back. He had a little wiggle in his game. That's fun. Chuba Hubbard had the fumble at the end, unfortunately for him.
Yeah,
but he's had a good season
He's
today.
got the big contract extension, such a good track, and that was heartbreaking to see, because that kid, I saw, you've seen the clips of him on the bench, and I just felt bad, but and it was a great play. I can't remember who came in and punched it out, but it was a great effort play.
But that play led to the loss, but Chuba's done way more good than harm for the Panthers this season. But shout out to Bryce. All right, one more overreaction extended edition. I don't know what you did for Thanksgiving, but I'm sure it was better than Matt Eberflus's Thanksgiving.
Oh, God.
How in the hell? We're a week late on this almost. What's going on at the final 30 seconds? I heard the explanation that it made fans probably angrier, and it was the final straw in terms of Matt Eberflus getting fired. And I'm talking about the Lions game in which he didn't call a timeout, and the ball just landed harmlessly as the clock hit 0, and they had a chance to win the game and lost after coming back in the second half. If you're in the owner's suite or the working suite, veggie plates are flying again.
Veggie plates are flying. Briefcases punching holes in the wall. Yeah, it's full Monty blowing up. I will say this and that. So we're watching it at my house, rooting for the Lions and for my brother. My mom's sitting there. She's 84. She's been to high school, college, NFL games for, I don't know, more than 3/4 of her life since 1960. She's been in the stands or seen football. And she's 84, and she's sitting there, and she looks at me. She goes, "Rick, why isn't Chicago calling a timeout right now?" And we're going, yes. Do not call a timeout. But if my 84-year-old mother can watch a game, and not saying she's an expert, but can tell game management, why wouldn't you use your timeout right there to get regrouped before that last play? Was bizarro land, and the explanation just made it worse.
Yeah.
And I understand, but you got a rookie quarterback out there, and Caleb, maybe some of it was his fault, but get the young, help him. That's what he's, how many games is he into? Like 12, 13 games into his career right now. So
hey, let me ask you this. What's the conversation as you walk from downstairs to have the pre-press conference meeting with Eberflus as the general manager? What's that conversation like?
Get ready, because they're going to the people with all the pitchforks and knives and torches are going to be coming your way, bud. So I would have, you're sitting there and like,
are you mad at him though?
I'd be counting the 10 before I would say anything, before I even go into the coach's office. And it's like, okay, 1,000, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi.
Doing your breathing exercise.
Thoughts, yeah, because you don't want to overreact and let your emotions come pouring out. But you're there trying to support the guy because he's your head coach. But you also got to get, hey, it is a coming because, and it's not just that one decision. It's been accumulating over over the year. I mean,
Sanders game, people were certainly angry about that.
Yeah. So there's a lot of, like, I don't know, the blocked field goal.
The blocked field goal. Oh my gosh. I was sitting next to Musso when that happened. He's our buddy CBS Sports Big Bears fan.
Yeah. Well, I wish you were sitting next to him in the in the Thanksgiving game. That would have been a fun guy to sit and watch the games.
You talk about throwing veggie plates. He probably went crazy. So, I mean, it's no surprise that they fired him. And have you ever gotten the sense, just sort of the feel in the locker room, that maybe the locker room isn't on board with what's going on?
Yeah.
Okay. You can feel that?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can feel it. And I used to, whether it's in team meetings or after the game in the locker room when the coach is addressing the team, you can see the body language. Are their eyes on the coach? Are they, trying to scurry into the shower as quick as they can? Are they facing the coach? There's all kinds of tells on seeing where this team is with the coach.
It's all the more incredible when you read that story in The Athletic about Tomlin being there since 2007 and finding new ways to keep these kids motivated. Never had a losing record, which is crazy. And that's the gold standard. You're trying to find these motivators, these D'Amico Ryan types. Who's some of the new guys that are sort of feel that way? Dan Quinn has a little bit of that in him too, it feels like.
Dan Quinn has a lot of that in him.
Yeah.
But
he's not a new kid on the block, but he has it.
No. And the one thing, when he was out of it for a year, he went and did a self-assessment. I mean, he talked to a ton of people where, okay, I'm putting my ego over here. Tell me, if I do get another shot, what would I do differently? What did you see me do wrong? So he had specialists come in certain areas and had heart-to-hearts with him because he cares. He wants to be. And you have to recognize when you're messing up, if that makes sense, and have enough pride in yourself or to put your ego aside and learn, because if you don't learn from your mistakes and you think you have all the answers, then you're not going to have, in my opinion, maybe I'm screwed up here, but you're not going to have.
You are doing a podcast.
Yeah, I am. So, but it is, just go back and look at all the head coaches hired last year. Most of it, everybody was talking about, we got to get these offensive gurus. But most of the guys, the D'Amico Ryans last year, as you go through the list, the Dan Quinns, the Mike McDonald's out in Seattle.
He's a good sort of motivator guy.
Yeah, I would say different.
He's not a rah-rah guy though, right?
No, he's not a rah-rah guy. But the one thing that I know, that just doing research on him last year, is he may not be a rah-rah guy, but the players respect him to the nth degree because of his ability to put them in situations to win games.
Right.
And his ability to develop talent and his ability to get players paid. So there's different ways. It's not all one. Dan Campbell's totally different.
He's a great example.
Yeah. So I think as you start going through these head coaching searches, and not to go off in a different overreaction, but don't pigeonhole yourself to, hey, I got to have the next young offensive-minded guy. You better, number one criteria is the leadership and the ability to communicate with players, and the players are different today coming out because of the NIL and things like that. How are you going to get to those players? Because I don't care if you're a first-year player, a free agent that made the team, a 10-year Pro Bowl, they're all looking for that leadership and direction. And once they sense that you don't have it anymore or you lost it, they're going to tune you out, and that's when everything goes down the drain.
Yeah, and the other thing is that I say all the time that isn't original. I mean, you're hiring an offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator mastermind for a completely different job when you're asking them to be basically the CEO of the 53-man roster and the guys in the practice squad, and those are two different responsibilities. We've seen guys have varying degrees of success. Like Arthur Smith, my guy in Pittsburgh, is crushing it. as a play caller. He had his struggles as a head coach in Atlanta. Dick LeBeau, who Hall of Famer, struggled as the head coach in Cincinnati. Crushed it as a defensive coordinator for the Steelers. All right, that's it for overreactions. Those are a good batch of overreactions. There's a lot to overreact to. All right, let's take one more quick break, and then we'll take a sneak peek at this updated NFL draft order and talk about some possible scenarios of what that means right after this.
At CBS Sports Galazzo Network, we're bringing you the game.
Madness of Messi arrives!
Breaking down the game.
This is unlike anything else in the world.
And changing the game.
Get it all for nil.
That means free.
Whoa.
And all day long!
24/7.
All right, Rick, before we get out of here, hey, Debo, I just resent you something. Someone sent me this on Twitter, Rick. And Debo, if you can put that up on the old screen there, it's hysterical because and Debo mentioned getting our buddy Charles Davis back on at some point in the near future to you two could talk about Hallmark movies as they relate to NFL football players. Like, who would you cast in the game? Debo, you still alive? What's going on? I think we lost Debo. All right, well, we'll wait for Debo to. Oh, there he is, Debo. Thank you. Can you read the text? Is the text on there? So that's a picture of a Hallmark movie.
That's a Kansas City Hallmark movie that just came out.
Well, here's the fun part. This is from Chris Shepard on Twitter. He sent this to me. He said, hey, Ryan Wilson, this NAIA football team got one of their coaches into a Hallmark movie. Rick was an NFL GM for how long, and he can't get on screen? Yeah. Not sure what this says about Rick. Good thing he has the podcast to fall back onto. So thanks for
all
that.
I need is one shot. I could be that guy looking at something in the corner of the room.
So yeah, NAIA coach. I don't know if he's the local to the wherever the set was, but shout out to I think Coach Hansen.
Yeah, tell Rick, I'm looking for a job.
You got a job. You got more jobs than perhaps anyone on planet Earth. All right, let's look at this draft order real quick. It's been updated after last night. The order didn't change because the Browns just got an extra loss in the loss column. They're now 3-9. You live by the Jameis, you die by the Jameis, Rick. That was a wild ride, man.
What an entertaining game, though.
Great game. I had low expectations. It was fun. And Bo Nix continues to be impressive. Some questionable throws with the interceptions, but at least the second one, but he did a lot of good things. All right, let's start here. Your gut, Rick, who ends up with the number one overall pick as we sit here 13 weeks through the NFL season?
I'm going to say with the performance of Tommy DeVito and the performance of who played last week for him that was even worse?
Drew Lock.
Drew Lock. That I'm going to say the Giants end up with a number one overall pick.
Well, that's great news for the Giants because in my Monday HQ exclusive mock draft, I had the Jets trading up. You can't comment on that to leapfrog the Giants out of a quarterback. So Vegas got a quarterback at 2, and then the Giants were stuck holding the bag there, and that bag ended up being Travis Hunter, just no quarterback. So okay, I think the Giants are making a strong case. Aiden O'Connell didn't play terribly last week.
They had a chance to win that game.
Yeah, so I don't know if they had a big chance to win. Yeah, they screwed our guy Jackson Powers Johnson with that.
There was a miscommunication apparently when they snapped the ball, which cost them the game.
Yeah. And you just put Jackson Powers Johnson on our halfway point team. He's still a good player. But yeah, so they'll probably win a few more. I'm not going to push back on the Giants. The Patriots had a chance to win that game. 68-yarder at the buzzer. They missed that one. The Panthers are picking 5th overall here. And maybe that's a good situation. Their offensive line's coming together. They can get an edge rusher. They can get a Tedero McMillan or someone if they want there. Speaking of the Jaguars, who currently have the number one pick, and my goodness, Azeez Al-Shaair almost ended Trevor Lawrence's life. You hate to see it. He put a statement out afterwards apologizing. He's been fined a couple times this year for questionable hits. I think Caleb Williams earlier in the year. I don't think it was malicious, but it was incredibly dirty. And I understand why Trevor Lawrence's teammates were supporting him. And I don't know if he's going to play again. He got knocked through the turf, it felt like. So whether it's Mac Jones or whoever else is number 2 or number 3 in the depth chart, What are the Jaguars doing if they have the first or second pick? Are you automatically trading down because our buddy Pete Prisco insists it's not going to be Travis Hunter should they have that opportunity? It's going to be a big guy.
Yeah, that's fine. But it's yeah, it's like a couple years ago when they had the number 1 overall pick in a similar quarterback class.
Yeah,
and they took Walker. So, but I don't know. Did you watch him by chance or see any clips of him playing this past weekend?
Javon, I did not.
No, Travis Hunter, the Colorado.
Oh, I didn't. Did he go crazy again?
I've never seen an athlete like that. It's just, how do you pass up someone that talented?
Interesting.
So,
and we don't know what the GM situation is going to be or the head coaching situation is going to be in Jacksonville. Maybe those things change. Trent Baalke he likes bigger guys historically, but I'm not going to push back on Travis Hunter. In fact, I was talking to producer Lucas up in Stanford, and he said the only person I'm trading up for if I'm the Jets, you can earmuff yourself here, is Travis Hunter. Like, not a quarterback. He wanted Travis Hunter. That's how special he thinks he is. Is Travis Hunter at the Marvin Harrison Jr., Rick Spielman level of NFL awesomeness potentially?
He's trending that way.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. All right. Of the top 10 teams not named the New York Jets, how many of these teams that we're looking at here on the list? And if you're listening, it's Jacksonville, Vegas, Giants, Pats, Panthers, Titans, Browns, Bengals, Saints. How many of these top 10 teams need a QB?
Vegas, Giants, Jets, Tennessee, Cleveland, and right outside, I put a question mark by New Orleans.
Yeah, fair enough. You weren't supposed to say the Jets, so we'll pretend you didn't say that.
Okay.
You can't comment on the Jets. They need a quarterback, though. Let's be real. Yeah.
I mean, that's realistic. If Aaron Rodgers doesn't come back.
Yeah, no, I agree. I just don't think it's interesting.
Doesn't mean they're going to draft one. Maybe I don't know what they're going to do. But if Aaron Rodgers doesn't come back, then there's an issue of quarterback. It's just a team need.
Yeah, I agree. No, I'm not pushing back. I'm just, I'm the compliance officer on the podcast. Hey, Debo, scroll down a hair. I want to see where the Bears are currently selecting. Probably just outside. I think they're 11th. So they're 11th below. There it is. And in the Monday mock draft that I did for HQ, Rick, I had them trading up to, I think, 8 with the Browns and leapfrogging the Bengals and the Saints, who need offensive line help, because after the 2 offensive tackles, it's slim pickings. So let's say Kelvin Banks Jr. goes top 5 or whatever, and then Will Campbell is sitting out there from LSU. Are you okay with the Bears trading up 2 spots to get leapfrogging those 2 teams to get an offensive tackle?
No.
Oh, okay. You don't want to give up the price?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I was just kind of looking through, and I didn't go through everybody's list, but I was looking through who has what to potentially move up, because I know we may be covering that too as far as draft capital. We don't know the compensatory picks yet because those won't come out till after, but who has multiple picks right now? And in this top 10, only Vegas and Cleveland have multiple picks, but they're 3rd rounders. The Giants have 1 extra 7th rounder. Cleveland has 2 thirds. Vegas has 2 thirds, and that's not enough to move up. So you're going to have to go into the following year's draft. Tennessee has no 3rd, so they just have a 1 and a 2. So they would have to. So there's not in this top 10 anyone that has multiple 1st-round picks. Remember last year we see Minnesota make a move and they had 2 number 1 picks before it was said and done. So there is no team that has multiple picks to move up in this top 10 that are in currently the top 10 to leapfrog one another, unless they start dipping into 2026 draft, which is probably 400 and some days away. Ryan Wilson.
Yeah, it might be 500, right? 365 plus 500 days. Holy moly.
500 days. 2026 NFL draft, Debo.
First one to say that one. I think, according to our buddy again, Joe Musso, there's still a Carolina Panthers 2nd-round pick headed to the Bears in 2025 as part of that Bryce Young silliness. So there's that. But you got to fix the offensive line. So you'll just free agency first and then circle back. Is that the thought?
Yes.
Okay.
And I already have a pick for Chicago at 11.
Okay. What is it? Edge rusher?
No. It could be, yeah. Edge rush would be first or offensive line, but if no one's there, there's a player that I would love to see with the Bears.
You gonna keep it a secret? Or you gonna tell us?
You know, does a running back from Boise?
Oh, that was going to be the next question. Who should take Ashton Jeanty? Because I was talking to our other colleague, Amanda Gare, about this, and she said she's seen a lot of Ashton Jeanty this year, covering sideline for CBS Sports, doing these Boise State games. I'll put this to you. She said he's probably 5'7". Do you care about that?
I don't know. I mean, I don't. Again, just watching tape, we don't know all the other things. Yeah. Off the tape I've seen, 5'7" is hard to swallow that high.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I think Jahmyr Gibbs was 5'11", Bijan was 5'11", so that's 4 inches shorter. He ain't a receiver, and you can use him in the quick game, but he doesn't need to be 6'1" either. He's low to the ground.
Yeah, but 5'7"?
Okay.
We're going to have a dollar bet with Amanda.
About what? About whether he's 5'7" or higher or lower?
Yeah, higher or lower than 5070.
Oh, God. If he's 5'6", he ain't getting drafted in the first round.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's hold off on that. I don't want to commit to that yet. So let's assume he's whatever height makes you the happiest. And Amanda said, is it a luxury pick to take Bijan in the top 11 or whatever? I was thinking about it. Taking or Ashton Jeanty in the top 11, is that a luxury pick? Bijan was a luxury pick at 8. Jahmyr was a luxury pick at 12. Those are pretty good luxury picks, and it's worked out pretty good for the Lions. So
would you do your armchair quarterback redraft, would you not take Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan Robinson again?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So you like him in Chicago. Oh, boy. Yeah, because they have DeAndre Swift has been underwhelming, I think is a way to put it.
Can you imagine putting a running back if he's – I'm not saying – I mean, I don't know if he's 5'7" or not, but just off tape, putting him in Chicago to go along with Caleb Williams and
Roman Dunze and
yeah, and the talent they have and what a difference, because I may be old school, but I still think it comes down to being able this time of year to run the football and to stop the run.
Look, we saw it last night with Jaleel McLaughlin, who's 5'8", 175 or whatever. He ran for 87 yards. That's a season high for him. And the running game in Denver has struggled, but he was averaging, I think, more than 5 yards.
Does that not help Bo Nix, or am I seeing things?
So using that logic, would you think about him at 7 with the Titans, 8 with the Browns, 9 with the Bengals, or are there other needs there more important?
I would say 9 with the Bengals may be an option.
Yeah.
Joe
Burrow looks like he's about done with that town.
Oh.
He can't catch a break. By the town, I mean the team, the city. I think he loves, but they are not helping him out.
No, but they have to get that defense fixed.
Oh my gosh, man! All right. Anything else strike your fancy from your notes there?
No. Giants number 1. Jags can trade or take Hunter, even though Pete Prisco disagrees 100%, which I'm happy he does. Move up and move back. Like I said, Vegas has 2/3. In some of these, I don't know. Sometimes I don't know the tiers of some of these trades. So there may be a third that moves to a second after the season based on performance. So I'm just looking at the basic things right now.
Yeah, that's fine. It's number 3rd.
I thought I had Cleveland with 2/3, but maybe it's a 2 seconds. I thought it was 2/3, but who knows?
Hey, let me ask you this. I wrote this note down before we get out of here. Cincinnati currently picking 9th. I said, who makes the Bengals better sooner? Running back Ashton Jeanty or Georgia safety Malachi Starks?
Well, the Bengals are rolling without Ashton Jeanty right now.
That's true.
So I would go with Malachi Starks.
Chase Brown's been a fun little addition there. Zach Moss is hurt. Yeah, the issue isn't the offense. I mean, they scored 38 points. Although I'm sure Joe Burrow
every week they score 38 points
and lose.
And how expensive is Chase going to be?
Oh my gosh!
If they would have got it done before the season compared to going into next year,
he's a problem too. I mean, T. Higgins was targeted a lot in that game because they were double teaming Chase. But even when he has the ball in his hands, and you hit him, it's still good. He plays like a running back. He's going to get 4 or 5 yards after contact every single time, no matter how many times you hit him.
There's a guy who took a chance on himself and probably doubled down and knock on wood, he stays healthy the rest of the year. But boy, did that pay off, betting on himself.
What's Joe Burrow going to do if T. Higgins leaves, which he's going to leave, and then Jamar Chase refuses to come back and sign somewhere else? I mean,
maybe they'll trade him to Pittsburgh
for George Pickens straight up.
Yeah.
Done. That's why you're the GM, Rick.
That's the first time as the GM of this show you actually had some authority in the decision you made.
Yeah, there you go. I love it. You're going to get a raise, assistant GM. Well done.
I'm just a scout in the corner.
By the way, the next time Breach brings up Blair Walsh, just remind him that he's a Bengals fan, which I do often. So that brings him back down to earth. All right, That's it. I think on Thursday, Rick, we're going to update our QB rankings post regular season, because the regular season's done. There's some conference championships going on, and maybe we'll preview a little bit of that. But for now, episode 2 of 3 in the book. As always, thanks to my guy Rick. Thanks to Debo for producing. Thanks for John Breach for hopping on. And thanks to all you guys who watch and listen and comment. We'll see you guys on Thursday.